Okay. So this one is something they call representing supply management. So this is if you're invited to speak at an ISM conference or something like that, or some other conference, you're representing PACCAR purchasing. And this is the module that tells you how to do it. So the task is to represent supply management meetings with corporations, government agencies, professional associations, and other organizations. And then meeting groups are not necessarily teams, especially if you're an ISM meeting group. Teams normally have members with complementary skills and generate synergy through a coordinated effort. At ISM, it's just a bunch of purchasing guys or girls or both. Bruce Tuckerman's 5 stages, we covered this before. Forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. I don't know why they have to cover that again here, but okay. Same processes apply for online meetings as in-person ones. It's just the technology is a little different. And group leaders should follow these guidelines.
What kind of meeting? I don't understand why this is a module. Sorry.
I don't either.
Okay.
But ISM will tend to repeat themselves in a lot of these modules for no particularly good reason, other than they want you to remember it.
But why are we being quizzed, I guess, or on how to run a meeting between PACCAR and their organization?
I don't know. It's in the curriculum.
Okay.
That's all I can tell you. And it's also this stuff we covered, a few modules back too. So they're just repeating themselves for this first part. Have a clear purpose and agenda, encourage participation, start finish on time, yada, yada, yada. Now, issues in the external role and perception of procurement historically. So purchasing has been viewed as a price minimizer, still is in some ways. 3 key ways supply management is changing. Supply chains are different today. They're more complex and they're more global, although they're going less global after the pandemic. And impacts on supply management continue to come from outside the field. Successful buyer of yesterday has shifted into supply management professional with many new and higher contributed roles. So when I first got into purchasing in the early 90s, a lot of the people came up from the factory floor into purchasing. Nowadays, you got to have a degree and probably an advanced degree, and it's a lot different than working off the 3x5 cards that it used to be. They used to hire commodity managers or buyers off of who was in your Rolodex or who you knew and how your connections. Nowadays, they kind of hire you off of, how well you do math and a few other things. Supply management must take the lead in the relationships, identify strategic accomplishments, capabilities of their companies. Procurement, along with sales, is responsible for most of the company's contacts with the external businesses. And procurement contributes heavily to shaping the company's external image. Principles and standards of ethical supply management. So ISM produces this guideline. And then PACCAR has our code of conduct. So these two are kind of very similar. This is ISM's version. They talk about impropriety, conflict of interest, influence, yada, yada, And then our code of conduct doesn't mirror this stuff exactly, but it's very similar. Prior to doing business with a supplier in another country, procurement must determine how business is done, what is acceptable, and what is legal or illegal. And just because it's legal in the middle of an African nation doesn't mean it's legal through the US. Professionalism, first principle, above standards, results of a perceived impropriety may become over time more disruptive or damaging than actual transgression. So in other words, if people think you're on the take, that can be more damaging than if you actually were on the taking bribes. Components of credibility: ethics, consistency of words and actions, commitment, existing relationships, reputation of the messenger, message, perceived concern, demonstrated performance. And you'll see this consistency of actions and words come up again in some of the test questions. Feedback to management. When procurement talks to management about department performance, they should be specific as possible and identify activities that contribute to the achievement of the company's objectives and goals. That's what the senior guys want to know about. Feedback regarding the results of past and ongoing activities should include what was expected to be achieved, what was actually achieved, and what actual results were more or less than expected. Pretty standard stuff. And proposals for new initiatives or changes to process should be developed as business cases to present to management. And guidelines of communication with management: be thorough, don't assume, synchronize the team, focus on salient facts, use graphs and charts, should say sparingly, exercise good form, and be concise. And then there's confidentiality, intellectual property. So when you're talking in an ISM group, you have to always be careful of not divulging stuff that is intellectual property or something like that. Contractual terms, products, technology. When meeting with groups outside the company, be mindful of all this stuff. Legal restrictions. So the ethical guidelines we just looked at deals with applicable laws, regulations, and trade agreements. So some of these laws we'll study a little bit later: the law of agency, contract and commercial, trade agreements, trade regulations, patent copyright law, environmental employment laws, health and safety laws. Then you've got a lot of laws in transportation and logistics, especially of hazardous materials. Then you got good stuff, Dodd-Frank and the SOX laws for finance. And then you've got, I think everybody here has to, every 2 years, do the antitrust law module. And then export controls are becoming more important, especially with all our tariffs. And here, I think, is where you can find out more from the State Department. Official website, International Trade Commission. I think this is a State Department guy. Talks about export regulations and things. It depends on what you're exporting and to whom. All right, so that's the module. Now we got these novels, and you'll see questions like this on the test. And usually what I would do on something like this is I kind of skip down to the last paragraph because you can almost always delete the first to a couple of paragraphs. They're just kind of setting up the situation. You don't always need it. But senior managers in Wiley Corporation still view supply management in the context of reactive purchasing. That is, when the organization needs goods or services, the supply management people buy them. This is viewed as a critical issue on several fronts. First, although the supply function regularly reports significant cost takeout, the supply manager knows that senior management's lack of understanding could easily translate into a reluctance to provide needed resources. And second, without sufficient resources to conduct the business of supply management with a value-added strategic mindset, the supply community is more likely to perceive the supply function as less capable and without clout in the organization. The supply manager knows that supplier perception of the function's strength in the organization affects the way they interact with the supply function, and the supply manager believes the best approach is to modify senior management perception of the function. Okay, good luck. But thinking strategically and with a view toward modifying senior management perception of the organization, which of the following is supply management's best course of action? I know where
I like B. Present a complete business case to senior staff on the potential contributions of the supply function.
Yeah, it's the longest one, and it covers some stuff they were talking about. So that's what I would go with. Let's see what these guys think. B it is. Okay, one more here, another novel. The management team of Able Corporation, an organization providing catering services to universities, recently held their semi-annual presentation on state of the company. In the presentation, management expressed a need for renewed emphasis on the company's public image. More specifically, management requested that all functions identify the various ways the function might further enhance the company's external image and present them to their immediate manager. Because good supply relations contribute to the formation of a good public image, management has asked supply management to focus on improving supply relations. What can supply management do to enhance the supply relations at Able Corporation? So as usual, you can usually
B?
knock out two of them. Which one do you like?
I don't know, A or B.
Yeah, I usually can knock it down to two. This one seems a little pedantic to me, so I would go with B and see what these guys do. I think this is it. Yeah, B it is. What didn't they like about A? Incorrect, because a clear, concise supply orientation booklet, there is no need to discuss supply management policy. Ah, because it's in the booklet. Okay. All right, there's 8 questions out there. Why don't you guys go ahead and get on them and raise your hand when you get done. heck is it? There we go. Ah, you guys are fast. Okay. Let's go
Got
over
to be
some
passing the
answers.
actual exam.
Well, you do 500 of these things and you get pretty quick after a while. All right. Number one is Charlie. And the way you handle these questions, you go and you find, you know, that 3 starts and 2 ends. So you immediately you get rid of 2 of them and then you just start comparing. All right. 2 is option C also. Antitrust law specifically forbids sharing of competitor supplier pricing. 3 is also Charlie. Interdepartmental routing and procedures would typically be covered in overall orientation for supply management personnel. 4 is also Charlie, because revenue planning is not usually among supply management's responsibilities, even though cost savings and cost avoidance contributes to it. 5 is alpha. Focusing on salient information is usually recommended and not elaborating on major points. 6 is bravo. Management style is evaluated separately as its own issue, not part of professional decorum. 7 is Charlie. Discussing competitors creates a risk of impropriety. And 8 is also Charlie. The director may use his or her company experiences as examples in the presentation, but there's danger that you might breach some confidentiality issues. All right, any questions? Okay, so tomorrow we get to do some tests. We're just going to do test questions on this last section we covered in B. All right, see you guys.
See ya.
Like,
Thank you, Rick.